Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Read Down, your weekly progressive political hot take by the Stonewall Democratic Club. On today's episode, it's Election Day, and we will be talking about the big Senate showdown in Georgia, the Senate runoff elections, as results come in as we speak, and what we know already, any updates that come during the hour, and we will read the GOP for filth, as usual, and give you the latest on tomorrow's sedition showdown spectacle in Congress, and how the Biden transition is doing despite it all. We'll be joined by our very special guest, Luckie Fuller. This is The Read Down. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Read Down. I am Alex Mohajer, and this is Election Day, the moment we've all been waiting for. Election Day in Georgia, the Senate, the outcome, the future of the United States Senate, and indeed the country will all hinge on what happens tonight. I'll be joined this week by my very special co-hosts, my delicious co-hosts on our first show of the new year. Please welcome Jonathan Welch.
Did you call me delicious or
Delicious. You're delicious.
Oh, okay, listen, I'll take it. It is election night. I have results rigged up, so anything can happen.
Jonathan's salt is delicious.
That's true.
And you're salty. I'd also like to welcome the sweeter of the pair. It's Ebony Murphy-Root.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, and also happy election.
Yes, holy moly.
And very, very, very pleased to welcome to the program our special guest panelist this week, Luckie Fuller. Luckie Alexander. Fuller or Alexander? Which one do you go by, Luckie, now?
It's Luckie Alexander.
Okay, Alexander. My apologies. And Luckie is the founder of Invisible Men, which has been doing amazing work for trans visibility for men, for trans men. And we're really pleased to have Luckie on the program, a friend of the Stonewall Democratic Club, and also responsible for the mural on Hollywood Boulevard, Luckie, which was just such a huge deal and really warms the heart. So we're really happy you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Also recently married. So congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Cheers.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So it's the new year, everybody, and it's time for the weekly read down, which is our read down of everything that's going on in politics. And there is no bigger news than the Georgia Senate runoff elections, which happens today after nearly a month of early voting, absentee voting. Today was the in-person election day, and results may take a few days. There's a heavy mail-in voting to consider, and an early vote that's going to be reminiscent of November. Now, Democrats their hopes are boosted by the early turnout, which saw real record numbers of key constituencies and demographics that the Democratic Party feels like they need to win Georgia. Right now, the Democratic candidates in the in-person vote are showing up higher numbers than the Republican candidates. Let's go around and talk about our hopes for this evening and the early vote. Starting with you, Jonathan.
Yeah, so I think my wishes are best summed up in this quick clip from the iconic television series Designing Women.
And that, Marjorie, just so you will know, and your children will someday know, is the night the lights went out in Georgia.
Okay, so I think we all want to be Julia Sugarbaker yelling at the GOP and telling them that this is it. This is the night the lights go out. Of course, we are seeing returns come in. It's very hard to say what's going to happen, but what we're seeing from what I'm understanding so far is that the numbers in more the rural red counties are down, the turnout is down anywhere from the high single digits to 20%, that, comparing that to Biden numbers, that could definitely be enough to change things. But as of right now, it's down to about a 1.5 point race for both races, which is getting tighter, getting a little bit more nerve-wracking. And, we all need to really hang on there. So I don't know when we're going to see results, but as we're seeing them come in, I do feel a little bit more hopeful, because in the very least, what we are seeing is that Democratic turnout is pretty enthusiastic, and you're seeing Ossoff and Warnock improve ever so slightly, knock on wood, that continues on Biden numbers.
Absolutely. And I'll note, look, this is going to be close. There were, in the general election, November, Joe Biden won by 11,000 votes. And so it's going to be very, very close. And as in November, there's going to be an early vote an early reporting of the vote that may appear to be more red, because they're counting the in-person vote right now. Ebony, despite the fact that they're only counting the in-person vote right now, the Democratic candidates appear to still be doing better as of right now. It's still early, than the Republicans, which is the opposite of the red mirage that we expected. So does that give you hope that the final outcome will be favorable for Democrats?
It does. That gives me hope. And what gives me hope is that I just saw Latasha Brown of Black Voters Matter say that every person she came across knew that there was an election today, and that she's never had that happen before, where people know what's going on. They know what they have to do. They've got a ton of young people, folks who didn't even vote in November, who are coming out to vote now. And so all those facts make me super duper enthusiastic that we might be able to pull this off. Now, what is interesting to me is the difference between the Warnock numbers and the Ossoff numbers, but we can talk more about that later. But at this point, I'm pretty enthusiastic. Alex muted.
Alex.
You make a great point, Ebony, and I want to turn this point over to Luckie about the new voter engagement, even new voters from November. So 118,000 new voters cast ballots, according to Stacey Abrams, and they are younger. They're more diverse from what we know. That's from November. So there's even more voters in the voting pool. What do you think about that and the engagement levels in Georgia? Luckie.
Okay, I'm having a whole lot of technical difficulty. If you could reframe the question for me.
Yeah, I was just I was talking about that there's a bunch of new voters in Georgia since even November. And does that give you some heart that there's increased engagement in Georgia and that new voters will be changing the outcome?
Absolutely. I think that a lot of the new voters that have showed up and came out to vote are going to make the difference, because a lot of those voters are the younger voters. A lot of those voters are voters that maybe didn't engage the voting system before now. And so definitely to see how this rolls out. And, like with all of the messaging that's going out, I think that our Republican friends may be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And Trump visited Northwest Georgia last night. A rally was a bunch of rambling. Jonathan, did you watch this? And could mixed messages be depressing the GOP turnout? Most analysts say no, but we know that Trump's legal team and supporters have been actually calling on Republicans to not vote in that state because they want to expose voter fraud, and somehow by not voting, they'll expose the Dominion voting systems. Is this mixed messaging causing a depressed vote for Republicans?
Well, first, I want to go back and just clarify something when it comes to the voting totals that we're seeing. We are actually starting to see mail-in voting come in before we're seeing same-day vote. It's just kind of a mixed bag all over the state. But what we can deduce so far is that, yes, whatever the case may be, that Republican turnout seems to be down so far across the state, county by county. I did not see Donald Trump speak. I don't need to ever see Donald Trump speak again. I hope to never see him speak again. I can't stand the man's voice. I can't stand the tone of yelling where he just shouts over everybody and makes his stupid, limited vocabulary points, that he wants to make. I am so tired of this man. think I've said that a million times on this show, but really, at this point, it's like a sad farewell tour. And of course, what is he going to do? I mean, he goes out to Georgia to try to turn out voters for an election that he's saying is fraudulent. I mean, he's already saying that it's not a process that we can trust, that voters can trust. I thought it was interesting that you had Gabriel Sterling, who's the elections official in Georgia, who's a Republican, come out strongly against Donald Trump and just, refute every single assertion that he's made. I mean, Trump is living in this world where he's like an old dotty Facebook user who's just like reading through conspiracy theories and sharing them among his network. And just because he sees something, he thinks it's true. And he's repeating that. And that's incredibly detrimental to the health of our democracy, but it's also really hurtful to GOP voters who do look to him and do think that he's authoritative and that he's coming up with things that are true and correct. And the reality of the situation is that everything that comes out of this man's mouth is a lie. And I do think that he's smarter than we sometimes give him credit for, but I don't think that he's smart enough to understand that the things that he's saying to protect his own ego are actually damaging to his own party. And they are truly damaging. I mean, if the two Republicans do win tonight, he still has sown so much discord in the minds of voters about how the voting system works. And I don't know exactly how they get that back and how they come back from it.
Yeah, and it was just days ago, Saturday, that the audio of Trump's phone call with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger leaked. And I'm going to play a clip of this before asking Ebony about whether or not she thinks this will depress GOP votes, inspire them. And let's hear from the President of the United States, Donald Trump.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. So tell me, Brad, what are we going to do? We won the election, and it's not fair to take it away from us like this. And it's going to be very costly in many ways. And I think you have to say that you're going to re-examine it, and you can
Ebony, thoughts?
I listened to this yesterday morning, first thing, with my 8th graders, and their faces were all like, and we had the transcript going, and they're like, what does he mean by the inner parts? Like, they were trying to make sense of it when it doesn't make any sense at all. When you read through his transcripts, you really see like his alternative syntax. And at one point, I think he calls Ryan Germany George. I mean, this is sedition. It is a coup in progress, but it's also just wild. Like, he has no idea that you're not allowed to do that. This is illegal. And thankfully, Raffensperger, who is no angel himself, but knows that he just wants to, keep his job and stay on the right side of the law, figured out that he should record this to make sure that he didn't get himself into any trouble. The president doesn't understand the law. It's very clear that the president hasn't studied any law. It's very clear that the president thinks that he can do anything. And I think his plan is to pardon himself on the last day. So he feels like anything he does right now is a free pass. That transcript is wild. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. And I'm still trying to figure out what he means by the inner parts.
He means the inner parts of the voting machines, because he's claiming that Dominion came in and changed the inner parts of the machines. And it doesn't really make sense. But I'll also note, as a person who went to law school and got a law degree, that ignorance of the law is not a defense in criminal law. You can't claim ignorance. So I don't care how dumb he is or how much he doesn't know. He's committing conspiracy to commit election fraud. He's conspiring with somebody. If it's an attempt, but an attempt is still a crime. So it's true. Lucky, do you think that this hurts the Republican chances in Georgia to have audio clips of this just days before? Or are people so numb to Trump's sort of antics that it's not going to really have an impact?
I think it may be a little bit of both. I can't really call it, because a lot of Trump supporters are really engaged and really wanting to believe everything that he says, regardless of how off it seems. But I also think that because of all of the things that he is saying, that it's definitely keeping people from going, well, at least the Republican voters from going to the polls. And it definitely it doesn't help.
I'm getting some, we have some, it's not bad news, but I guess, it's because we really don't know what the outcome is going to be, but it looks like David Perdue just took a 5,000 vote lead over John Ossoff. 66% of votes counted, 2.79 million votes counted so far. Of course, Jonathan, you're saying that absentee votes have started to be counted. That wasn't my understanding of how it was going to work, but I guess they are counting absentee ballots right now as well. So we'll see what's happening. Raphael Warnock continues to maintain a lead over Kelly Loeffler of about 20,000 or 15,000 votes right now.
Yeah,
so that's what's happening.
Usually I'm very cynical, as you know, but I'm going to try to chime in a little bit, with a little bit of hope in this one because, there are some counties that are counting or started with counting a significant batch of mail-in votes. Some are doing them in batches as they also count the same-day vote and early vote. So it's different county by county. It really kind of depends on where we're seeing the numbers from what I keep seeing as I keep turning around. It still remains true. Again, I'm knocking on wood. I have candles lit behind me next to a picture of Stacey Abrams. So, it's like a shrine in my house. But exactly, we have all of these women behind us to hopefully bring a good result. But from what I can see, there is still improvement between Ossoff and Biden numbers county by county. So we just kind of have to see all of the numbers come in. It is disconcerting to see David Perdue pull ahead. I kind of wish we started the night that way, but that's okay. It's going to be a roller coaster all night and into tomorrow, I'm sure.
Ebony, Jonathan Welch came over to my house outside, social distance, on election night in November, and stayed for about an hour. But the early election results made him so sick with anxiety that he had to leave. And it was 5 days later, where after 99% of the ballots had been counted in Georgia, that literally overnight, as they counted the final absentee ballots, the gap was bridged closer and closer. And I stayed up all night long like a crazy person until Joe Biden overtook Donald Trump in Georgia and then continued to overtake him. And then it was 11,000 votes spread in the end. So everyone relax, including me. We don't know. But Ebony, what are your thoughts as these early results come in? You don't think we're going to have results right now, right?
No, but maybe tomorrow. I just checked. There are 154 counties, that's so many counties. Texas is the only state that has more counties. So 5,000 votes from one of these counties somewhere doesn't freak me out that much. There's a ton of counties with votes coming in, and there's 10 million Georgians. I don't know how many of those are registered voters, but there's a lot of votes to be counted. I'm not nervous yet. I'm not going to be nervous. I just really have faith in the ground game and the door knocking that folks down in Georgia are doing. That common touch. I know friends who are phone banking have people saying, I've already got like millions of phone calls. Everybody in the state probably got 10 or 11 phone calls. So I just really have faith that the turnout is going to be good and the numbers are going to go our way. I just can't get over that. There are so many of these tiny counties. Some of them are mostly Black, some of them are mostly white, some of them are super diverse. I heard the word micropolitan on the news today, so I'm gonna have to look that up and see what that means specifically in terms of Georgia. But I think just there's so many different counties and so many different populations that we just don't know how these numbers are gonna shake out.
Okay. Well, I'm a nervous ball of anxiety about it. So we will see what happens. And another thing that I have a little bit of anxiety about, Luckie, is this big drama about the election certification that's set to happen tomorrow. If we can turn away from Georgia for just a minute, Congress is set to certify, a joint session of Congress is set to certify the Electoral College vote tomorrow. And there's been a lot of drama because 150 plus members of Congress, including 13 GOP senators, are planning to object to the certifications of 3 states. and to basically contest the election outcome. What are your thoughts on this, Luckie? And what do we have in store for us tomorrow?
I think personally, I feel like they're delaying the inevitable. Like Biden won, fair and clean. And so I think that even with all of the other different ways that Trump and all of his minions have come in and tried to negate the results, then I think we're going to win. I'm not nervous about it at all. I think it's a mess, and it's too much for the American people to deal with. We're already dealing with a pandemic. We're already dealing with, the Black Lives Matter movement and all of the other different things. I think that he should just let it lie. Just leave it alone. It's done. It's over with. He's kicking a dead horse.
Kicking a dead horse, indeed. Noel's chiming in. I just don't understand why people still vote for Perdue and Laughter. It's clearly they don't serve for the people. And how they could still support a Republican Congress that objects. Oh, and I love that pick on you, Ebony. Jonathan, your thoughts on this showdown before Congress tomorrow? And to be clear, the seditionists don't have the votes. Pro-democracy Republican members include, surprisingly, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who's been privately urging his caucus to not do this. Senator Toomey, Senator Romney, Senator Collins and Murkowski. Senator Collins is very concerned, and more, even Senator Tom Cotton, who is our friend Ryan Basham's favorite person. They are speaking out against this. But Jonathan, can you discuss how this will still hurt us? And because it will.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go out and my Massachusetts is going to come right out and say, what a bunch of fucking yahoos. I mean, I can't stand, I don't, I'm going to try to separate like what it is that they mean from the whole situation. I do think that there are a number of senators, especially the ones who are brand new, who are just sworn in on Sunday, like Tommy Tuberville, who doesn't really know the Constitution because he was a football coach. And I'm not saying football coaches can't know the Constitution, but he really, it's been very clear in debates and statements in everything that he's made, that he's put out there, that he doesn't have a clear understanding of the law. And they are, I think, a little bit more interested in sedition and in authoritarianism as a way to be, because it means that they can be in power. It doesn't, they're not the ones who are going to be oppressed, so they don't necessarily care what happens. So you see that with that contingent, and then, with the people like Senator Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley, who have their own political aspirations. It's kind of like a crazy pipe dream to think that these people would ever get the Trump crowd. Their last names aren't Trump. There's a reason why the Trump people gravitate towards Trump and to the Trump family. It's because of how brash they are, and it's because they're not typical politicians. And Donald Trump made Ted Cruz look like an idiot during the 2016 primaries by attacking his father for saying that he was in on the plot to kill JFK, which is a crazy conspiracy theory. I'm surprised he didn't come out and say that Ted Cruz is the Zodiac killer, which is a big joke conspiracy theory. But I'm surprised that Donald Trump didn't latch onto that and think that that was real. He really made this guy look ridiculous, and it's just pure political groveling to see someone like Cruz take this argument to his colleagues. Ultimately, like you said, it's going to fail, but it is going to be a colossal waste of the day in the United States Senate and in the House, because they have to go off, separate for 2 hours and debate each state for that 2 hours in their separate chambers and take a vote. They don't have the votes to make this happen. Mike Pence can't overturn it, all these different things that just can't happen. So, I'm confident that obviously things are going to be okay at the end of all of it, but things are also not going to be okay at the end of all of it, because you're going to have people who we have trusted in public office, in high public office, in this country to defend democracy actually try to destroy democracy by scrapping the will of 81 million voters and saying that we don't matter, compartmentalizing us right down the middle. We don't matter, but the minority who did not get their way this time, they matter more. And the damage that that does to us on the world stage and also to the morale of voters in this country, and to even the suggestion of laws that they may pass in the future that might target the freedom to vote, that might target how easy it could be to vote and make it more difficult for people, and to disenfranchise the people that they know will, you know, deliver the results that they don't like. That's on the table now, and that's what concerns me the most.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it. You committed voter fraud. Basically my impression of the Republican Party right now. Ebony, thoughts on Republicans right now? Just your thoughts, just words for the GOP.
Well, it just is so fascinating how for years they were the party of morals, and they were the party of principle, and they were the party of wanting to conserve the way things have always been. And then never in history of any election has anyone lost and behaved like this. So now they've opened the window, the Overton window or whatever, of acceptable behavior when you lose is like, I think this is terrible for the future. Now, every time we're not going to have that, you know, statesman like, okay, I lost like Al Gore, and let's, you know, preserve our republic. Now it's going to be just a tantrum. And I think we're going to constantly be in this election mode of like, if we don't win, that's it. We're calling out all the stops. And I don't know what Ted Cruz's future is, but I don't see, 51%. Well, the Electoral College of America saying this is what I want in a president. The weirdest thing about Ted Cruz to me is I heard a story that, you know, he went to Princeton for undergrad, and Princeton is the douchiest of the Ivy League schools, in my opinion. And then when he went to Harvard Law, he would only study with other people who had gone to Ivy League undergrads. Now, he always tries to project that he's this man of the people, salt of the earth guy, but then he's got this really nasty elitist streak, and he's an unlikable person, if anybody's unlikable, right? So I don't know what his plan is. I think people would definitely choose, you know, Hawley over him. Ted Cruz, I think, has, you know, no future outside of the Senate, but that is just my prediction, my feeling.
I just want to say real quick, Ebony, that I totally thought you were going to say, I heard a story that Ted Cruz is the Zodiac killer, and I just really,
You know, I heard that Ted Cruz is the Zodiac killer.
Yeah, he hasn't been caught.
I would think so too, Ebony. I think Ted Cruz is the most punchable face in Congress. I think he is one of the most unlikable people in the United States government. He is so schmarmy and dishonest, and he projects he's the way hey there, I'm Ted Cruz. And he's just trying to be something he's not. And I knew people like that in high school and in college and in law school, the gunners, people that were talentless people who were unlikable, who had no ability to connect with other people, but who wanted to get ahead in life and just had nothing but brazen ambition. And there is nothing more unlikable than Ted Cruz. And there's some detestable figures. Mitch McConnell is at least brazen and sort of like has a style to him. Ted Cruz is just an asshole and just a lie. It's lies. I mean, this is a guy who Trump insulted his family and his wife during the primary.
Poor Heidi. Well, not poor Heidi, but that was nasty.
And then a month later, this bootlicker is making phone calls for Donald Trump. Grow up, pair, you pathetic, bottom-feeding, ladder-climbing, disgusting, dishonest piece of dirt. Ted Cruz, disgusting. Nothing. Ugh. I almost forgot how much I hated him. He was just cruising along, and we could just hate Mitch McConnell, and we could just hate Donald Trump. And then this asshole had to do this shit and remind us how much I hate him. Lucky thoughts for Senator Ted Cruz. I'm moderating. I'm sorry. I usually try not to rage out when I need to moderate. Couldn't help myself.
Well, you know what? I think that Ted Cruz and all of the minions within the Trump camp, I think unfortunately they've set a precedent, right? And they set this mode in in motion, and everyone coming behind them that doesn't like like Ebony was saying, that doesn't like the results. They're going to throw these hissy fits, and they're going to be like large man children. And it's just a bad, where are my words? It's just a bad precedent to set. It's a bad example to set. And for all of those folks that are coming behind him that want to be Republicans and want to follow in their shoes, then it leaves a really, like, I'm looking at the generations that's coming behind that say, hey, I want to be just like Ted Cruz. Like, we don't need any more Cruzes at all.
We need Cruzes again, just no more Ted Cruzes. So whenever the Trump comes back, me and Jonathan Welch are going to go. I'll have a Perrier. Welch will have something severely alcoholic. Lucky you can come, and Ebony, you too. All four of us. It's going great.
We need more Chevy Cruzes and less Ted Cruzes. Can I chime in with a quick?
Go on.
Can I give you a quick Georgia update? On election night in November, one of the people who actually made me able to get a couple hours of sleep because I read his tweets, and he's incredibly astute at reading the numbers and understanding the trends, is Dave Wasserman, who is a political analyst for the Cook Political Report. And he's worked on the House, and he understands district level and county level vote. So he's taking a look right now at what's happening. And just a few minutes ago, he tweeted, here's the story right now. 1, black turnout looks frankly phenomenal, which is amazing. 2, Purdue, Loeffler are approaching Trump percentages of the vote in a lot of the deep red rural counties, but turnout there isn't anything special, which is something that was reflective of what we were talking about earlier, that we're seeing depressed turnout of anywhere from 8 to 20% in a lot of these red counties throughout Georgia, especially North Georgia, above, if you're looking at the map, above Atlanta. And number 3, it's getting harder to see a path for either Republican, but especially Loeffler. So let's hope. Your words.
Your lips to God's ears.
To God's ears, Dave Wasserman.
Dave Wasserman.
I count on you.
Praise and believe, Wasserman. I worship at the altar of Dave Wasserman at Redistrict, if you're interested.
Yes,
and
please.
Way cooler than Nate Silver. Nate Silver, you traitor, you goon. All right. Well, where are we? Let's see. Jonathan wrote an outline, and every time. Okay, so look, there's this vote that's going to happen tomorrow, and we'll see. People are saying that Trump is convinced that Mike Pence, who's going to be presiding over this, has the power to overturn the election. He doesn't. The Constitution grants the vice president the power to literally open the envelopes and count them. That's it. That's all he can do. So there's not going to be an outcome tomorrow that's something that we don't expect. Okay, that's what's up. On the president-elect front, Joe Biden, president-elect, we're still waiting on choices for his cabinet appointments, which will be made a lot easier if Democrats win in Georgia today. But nonetheless, we're waiting to hear his appointments for the Department of Justice, Department of Labor, Commerce, the CIA, and the SBA. What's the SBA? Am I missing something?
Small Business Administration.
There you go. Didn't even know it was the thing. Small Business Administration.
The Linda McMahon role, I call it.
Oh my God.
Right.
WWE.
So Ebony, could the choices depend on what happens in Georgia? For instance, Sally Yates may be more difficult to confirm than Doug Jones for Attorney General, but who could be selected and who should be selected? What's going to happen? Will Joe Biden's choices be affected by the outcome of the Georgia results?
Well, I'm super interested in this Susan Rice position, what he's granted to her. I think I really understand what this role is, this domestic policy role. Sounds important, but it's not a title that I recognize. Who knows? Doug Jones is a really, am I thinking Doug Jones? Yes, Doug Jones is a really interesting guy to me. I don't think he would be a bad pick. I think that my perspective on him has heightened in the past couple of weeks because I think that he, like Tim Kaine, who I also think was underrated, has this very unassuming facade, and maybe that's what we need. Sally Yates would, of course, be incredible. I don't know. I think we all expect that maybe Joe will get a little bit more bold with his choices. I don't see that coming. I think he is who he is, the middle of the road guy. He doesn't want to get anybody too, flapped, and I think he's going to make calm, reasonable choices that are going to piss off some of us on the left. But I don't know. I don't know if there are any like bold outside of the box titles coming. I don't see that.
See, I think that we win Georgia tonight, the 2 Senate races in Georgia, and all of a sudden we got RuPaul for Department of Commerce. We've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as the Attorney General, just to say to the Republicans, some socialists. But
or
I don't know.
Throw AOC onto the Supreme Court, a woman who is not.
No. Hillary Clinton for the Supreme Court is all.
No, we need someone who's going to live for about 60 more years. So
Hillary Clinton is going to live past all of us because Hillary Clinton is a demigod.
That's true. I'm glad she's not blocking Ebony this time.
Yeah. That's fine. I just saw something really interesting from Ezra Klein. He said if Ossoff wins this, he will be the youngest senator since.
Guess who?
Biden!
That's amazing. He would be the first millennial. He's 33. I think Biden was 29. Biden was AOC aged when he entered the Senate, which is so amazing and says so much about how old a body the Senate is. I kept saying that in class yesterday, and I think I weirded out my students. But first millennial representation, that would be huge. The millennials have been of age for Senate for a while now, for about 7 years, and there hasn't been one yet. So,
and look also at the people on the top end of that age spectrum too.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking Dianne Feinstein is
87.
pushing 90.
Yeah.
As is Chuck Grassley. Bernie Sanders and Pat Leahy are both turning 80 this year, I think. Or Bernie's turning 80 next year. It's a body that's far too old, and we need to bring that median age down.
And it's not just ageism. I think people hear that and they think, oh, you're being mean to old folks. But if your college costs $500, you can't relate to me.
No.
There's a level of just knowing about lived experience and what it's like to be young and try to establish yourself now that they don't get because their lives were just so different. I think that's what matters in terms of representation.
Amen.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to say I think I brought this up before, that looking at the United States Senate as a representation of the people, as a representation of America, it's deeply disappointing because you're seeing so many people who are over the age of 65, far more representative than the actual population. It's way too white. There aren't enough women. There are only 2 queer people in the Senate. We really need to find our opportunities to diversify the United States Senate as much as we can. And if we're able to pull off this win tonight in Georgia, then we're going to do that significantly. We're going to add one more black senator after we lost the only black woman in the Senate when Kamala Harris becomes vice president. So we're going to have another black man in the Senate who is a preacher at Martin Luther King's church. We would have the first, as Ebony said, millennial senator who's the son of Jewish immigrants. And certainly, at 33 years old, I mean, we need that perspective. There's no one our age to tell people hey, your generation really fucked up and now we're left holding the bag. There we go. Alex.
Yeah, I am trying to do this and handle something else at the same time, which is, it's what it is. But COVID, it's getting worse. Officials in LA, direct first responders, are saying to not bring patients to hospitals via an ambulance if they have a low chance of survival because the hospital oxygen supplies are running low. They don't have any ICU beds. LA is now the epicenter. It's considered the most dangerous place in America. So Ebony, changing subjects a little bit to COVID, what are your thoughts on this? And being as you and I live in Long Beach, and Jonathan Welch is over in East LA County, it's a very dangerous place. That's why we got these on.
Yeah, my neighbor right next door let me know that he was sick, and so that feels really close to home because I live in a condo. He's right there, so that really made me nervous. Things are not great here in Long Beach. They opened up the old community hospital. They've got a parking lot open. things are rough here. And I think people in other parts of the country are just now realizing that like we're like really in a matrix of vulnerability here in LA for like, you know, density and a lot of people in multi-generational households and a lot of folks who can't afford rent. So families are doubled up, and we see how like capitalism kind of intersects with health. This is pretty scary stuff. And it doesn't look like there's really a will to help people, right? Did you see those folks at the Ralphs and at the Westfield Mall, like screaming at the people in the J. Crew, like these anti-mask people? This is wild behavior, and this is kind of like the ugly underbelly of American culture. This like, I'm free, and so I'm gonna like use my liberty to attack you by not wearing a mask in the mall, which is private property. This is kind of disappointing, and this is the first that time that I've really felt like scared that like the illness is so close in terms of colleagues, in terms of students and their families. This is not good. We're definitely not out of this yet, and we've got like a far way to go. And I hope we can get that Navy hospital shipped back here too, because we need it. People are in need. People are sick, and this is a tough time.
Yeah, I'm gonna just chime in because Alex left us. What? Okay, there. Hi, can I?
Jonathan, the strain in South Africa is and Luckie's back. Hey, Luckie's back. But Jonathan, the strain in South Africa is something that we just learned about, the mutation that is now more infectious. How does this change the game in terms of COVID, and what do we know about it?
Well, before I start, Alex, can I please share a call?
Yeah.
Per Dave Wasserman, who I referenced earlier, Dave Wasserman has seen enough. Raphael Warnock defeats Senator Kelly Loeffler in Georgia's special Senate runoff.
Oh, but we need both.
We do, but Jesus, my God, I almost cried reading that.
Wow.
So that is per Dave, who he's never wrong, but we're not there yet.
I don't see this tweet. When was it?
He just tweeted it 11 seconds ago.
Oh, okay. So let me read.
Or 2 minutes ago now, 2 minutes ago. Okay, so getting back to COVID, back to the South African strain, it is very concerning to see that the disease is mutating as quickly as it is. We saw a variant in the UK that is 50 to 70% more contagious. Now what we're seeing with the South African variant is that it may potentially be resistant to vaccines. Now, from what I've read a little bit deeper on this, because of course I panicked and I felt like, oh my God, well, we're all going to die and this is hopeless. But the reality is it's almost like a flu. When you get the flu and the flu mutates because it's so widespread, but far less severe than COVID, they're able to take the sequence of the vaccine and to change it ever so slightly to adapt to it. That doesn't take as long as developing a whole new vaccine. It's taken several months to develop the vaccine that we are now seeing. So if they do need to make adjustments to account for the South African strain, it would take somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks is what I've read in order to doctor the vaccine to make it applicable to that strain. That's not to say that the vaccines that are out there and that are coming in the next few months wouldn't take care of that. So what we're seeing though is that this disease is so widespread that it is changing pretty quickly, because people are not, and I think this goes back to Ebony and what you were saying, is that people aren't necessarily taking the precautions that they need to take entirely, but also we're seeing so many failures from the top that it's hard to dictate or it's hard to actually pinpoint where the error is. Is it public error or is it the error of our leaders? And I definitely think that if we have new leadership, that's going to help us. We will have new leadership in just 2 weeks, so that will certainly help. But yeah, I definitely think that this is the time to stay home. Consider this March 2.0. We need to stay in our homes and we need to stay far away from people. I'm petrified. 1 in 5 Angelenos right now has COVID-19. That's incredibly scary. There are 5 people on this broadcast right now. that could be one of us. And I hope that we're all healthy right now. Five people, are us including Kate, our stage manager, who's behind the scenes. So there's 5 of us, and it's like the odds are one of us would have it. That's incredibly frightening. And if you're out there doing stuff, like, please cut it out. And that's going into my read later in the library. But yeah, scary times.
We got Luckie back. Luckie, your thoughts on coronavirus and also how it adversely affects populations of color and perhaps the LGBTQ and trans community.
Yeah, I'm definitely worried about the coronavirus and how this mutation is happening and how all these different strains are showing up. It's scary because like Jonathan was saying about the numbers 1 and 5, right? Just what was it, 2 weeks ago? I had to go run and take a COVID test because I'm super petrified. One of my coworkers came back positive. So with respect to how it's affecting our communities, I think the Black and brown communities are being affected in a couple of different ways because we are looking at more Latinx people that are contracting COVID and dying from COVID. And, we're looking at Latinx male. And then even more so with the Black community, we have one part of this where our community is being impacted by COVID disproportionately, but also we have this mistrust when it comes to the vaccine itself. So if our folks are not wanting to take the vaccine, then that's less protection from COVID, but also we're still being impacted in this really screwy kind of way. But then when we look at that layer of our LGBT folks and how that's being impacted, because these folks don't have the same kind of access to a lot of the things that are necessary to make sure that we stay safe, especially those folks that are unhoused and LGBT at the same time. So they're looking at discrimination, mistrust, and not having access to things to keep them safe. I'm definitely worried, and I'm a dad, right? So on top of all of those things, on the political front and on the community front, I'm still a family guy. So I'm worried about my family, and between me, my 4 kids, and my wife, that's 6 of us. So if we're looking at the stats, 1 and 5, that means at least one of us out of my own small cluster is possibly, affected in that kind of way.
Yes, indeed. I have some more Georgia news. It looks as though Dave Wasserman and others are now reporting that the race, that David Perdue still has a slim path to victory, but it's becoming increasingly slim. And some people are not. Katie Porter, Congresswoman Katie Porter, has just tweeted out, "Say it with me, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell." So that's coming from Congresswoman Katie Porter. We'll see that race. Neither race has been called yet, but Wasserman is a trusted source in terms of studying the results and where they're coming in from which counties. And it looks like Purdue's chances are getting slimmer, although they both appear to be ahead right now. So, it's all the game of which counties are turning out where and where the count has now stopped in certain counties that are very red, versus places like Fulton County, which is going to continue to count all night. So we'll see as that comes in, but that's some more news. Ebony, the UK has changed. It's just crazy to go back and forth from the Georgia news to COVID. But want to give you guys updates. Ebony, the UK has changed plans on distributing the vaccine by putting off a second dose. The U.S. distribution struggles amid lack of planning by the current administration has meant that much less people here are vaccinated than they should have been by now. What are your thoughts on this? And can we get a vaccine already, Ebony?
I'm making a lot of critiques of capitalism today. But I think, all of sort of the edge, all of the sexiness is in getting the vaccine out, and nobody really wanted to plan for the rollout, which is the work, which is what is important, because that's not where the money is. And so that's what's disappointing, seeing that happen in our country, seeing that happen abroad. We know that Boris, is that his name? Boris was sick early on, right? So it happened to him, and yet there's still sort of no widespread plan to get this vaccine out to folks across the pond. Oh wow! I think that's the first time I ever sneezed. Here. This is scary because we have good vaccines going to waste because they're not cold or they're not being distributed to the right folks, and And I think down in Florida, they had a plan. Like they wanted to be old folks first, and they had like this triage plan of who they wanted to get it out to, but it's not getting to anybody. This is scary and upsetting and disappointing. I hope we can figure out a rollout. And I've seen people say, like, why not have Amazon do it? Or why not have the people who get those, Halloween stores popped up, like people who know how to roll out things quickly. It doesn't necessarily have to be medical people, but like, let's get it going. We've got the vaccine, but people need to get it in the arms.
Hell, I'll do it. Me and Jonathan will do it.
It's just, us and whoever puts up the Shen Yun posters. I can't take credit for that, but multiple people have been saying the people who market Shen Yun, the most beautiful Chinese dance.
They are everywhere.
I went to Shen Yun.
You did.
In China.
See, I'm concerned that if you go in the United States, it's actually a cult. Like I feel like that's the level to which I feel,
And it's connected to that newspaper. Have you ever seen that newspaper that
the Epoch Times?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Okay, so I found a stack of those in my local. I found a stack of those in my local grocery store, and since they're free, I carried them out of the store and threw them in the trash.
Oh.
Some of the news is good, though, but then you read between the lines. Like, Yep, it's the movie.
Okay, well, all right, so everyone, oh God, okay. George is going to give me a heart attack. Okay, so here's what's up. I went to China, to Beijing in 2010, 2009. I went to see Shen Yun because a group of Chinese locals in Beijing thought I was a Yankee Doodle. That's what they called me, Yankee Doodle. And they took me drinking to a bar and then put me in a cab and said, we have something that you are going to love. And they sent me in a cab to the Shen Yun show. That was my story. It is that time of the episode now to open the library. It's time. This is our chance to read someone for filth, to get on our soapbox, to speak from the heart. Everyone gets a moment to shine and stand on their little soapbox and sing to the world. And let's open it up. Jonathan, do you have something emotional or angry?
It's pretty angry.
Okay,
that's fine. I'll start. I am currently holding my dog/daughter like a baby. So this is Sam. She was getting a little fussy. So I'm just going to put her down real quick and then I'll start. There you go. Good girl. Okay. Guys, we mentioned it before, but COVID is really fucking bad, okay? It is at the point right now where, as we mentioned, ambulances are and first responders and ambulance workers are deciding who gets to live and who gets to die. You don't even get to the hospital if you're so severe that you may not make it. And that goes for not just COVID, that goes for people who are suffering from heart conditions, stroke, who may have cancer, who are in dire straits because they can't receive the care that they need in order to save their lives. This is a frightening time. When I see people go to Puerto Vallarta or go to Tulum or go, down to Mexico and party and then come back to Los Angeles, come back to New York, go back to Chicago, it's maddening. There is no reason why anyone should get on a plane for leisure right now. I understand when people have to get on a plane for work. And I understand when they have to, keep the lights on and they do things for that reason. But if you are thinking to yourself, I'm going to go ahead and take a vacation because I've been so good, or I got the first dose of the vaccine, that is not enough. And we are not there yet. In fact, we are in the worst position we've ever been with COVID-19. And as we mentioned, there are variants out there and the virus is getting really smart because it's speeding up and people are getting sicker and more people are dying. And you may think that you're healthy and you may think that the people around you are healthy and will beat it, or maybe you already had it, but you can still carry it. And it's not just about you. And it's not just about COVID. It's about every other medical condition that cannot get treated because of the selfishness of people who decide that it's okay to go party in Speedos when they look pathetically old and haggard and should have put on board shorts a hell of a long time ago. It's because of those people that things are getting really bad. And I'm looking at all the gays who went to Puerto Vallarta. You all had better learn your history. It was a virus that almost wiped us out when I was growing up. And when I was growing up, it was almost synonymous with being gay. So it made it very hard for us to come out and live full, free lives. So learn your history, understand your responsibility to other people, and stay the hell home.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan, for that read. Hey, Luckie, who do you want to read this week? The library is open.
You know what? I want to read all of those Karens out there that choose not to wear masks, and then say that it's a infringement on their rights, or because they can't breathe, or all of these other things. I want to tell them that it's not about you. It's about everyone. Just like Jonathan was just get through saying, like, these folks, it's not a right for you not to wear a mask. Literally, it's about health, and that's it. So how about we put on a mask and stop bitching about it? It's the only way that we're going to make it through this. It's bad enough folks don't want to stay home. So if you're not going to stay home, let's put on a mask. Let's at least, meet halfway somewhere. But this is getting out of control. I've seen so many of these videos where these folks are like really very adamantly upset about wearing a mask. I don't understand it. Literally, it's just a piece of cloth you put over your face. It's too easy. Let's do it.
I mean, so pushy. Fine. God. Ebony Murphy-Root, who would you like to read this week?
I have a shout out this week to state rep, Pennsylvania state rep Malcolm Kenyatta. I just love him. One of the great things about MSNBC, no matter how you feel about it, is you kind of get to see the rising stars of both parties, actually, but of the Dems specifically. And I just love everything that he has to say. Yesterday on Chris Hayes, he referred to Pat Toomey et al., the whole crew of the sedition Jim Crow crew, and he called them stunt queens. And I loved it because he was absolutely right. And he is, he's a millennial. He's 30. This is his second term in the PA State House, and he has a huge career ahead of him. I'm so grateful for him. He's so smart. He's so himself. He's so authentic. He's engaged. He's just the whole package of what we want to see in the next generation of leaders in this country. So State Rep Malcolm Kenyatta, if you're listening, I appreciate you. Keep speaking truth to power. Keep supporting your constituents. Keep calling it out the way you see it.
And Meg Noble Clifton is on board with that, and she's popping on quick before East Coast bedtime to say hi, Ebony Murphy-Root.
Hi, Meg. We went to teacher school together.
I want to go to teacher school.
Hey, also real quick,
what?
Malcolm, you should run for Pat Toomey's seat because he's retiring.
I saw that too, and I thought the stunt queens line was hilarious, and he just kind of exhaled it. Like it wasn't even a second thought. Like to an audience that was like, stunt queen. He didn't care. He didn't care. I'm gonna, for my read, I'm gonna sort of echo Jonathan and Luckie a little bit, and read something from a Instagram user by the name of Herrera Images. And I learned of Herrera Images. His real name is his real name is Leo Herrera, but he's Herrera Images on Instagram. And this was on Gays Over COVID, the Instagram account Gays Over COVID, which everyone should follow because it's an education on privilege and it's fantastic. So, dear gays partying in Mexico, I want you to know we aren't dragging you or cackling at that sinking party boat because we're jealous. Okay, maybe just a little. It's not just the colonizer vibes of locals selling their health with a smile for your margarita. These giggles are because we understand all too well why you're on that boat to begin with. The dark impulses our community suffers so much to control. The pursuit of pleasure at the expense of spirit, of meth binges and steroid heart attacks, of clubs asking for 2 forms of ID to black folks, of casual, deadly transphobia, of gentrification. You clacking that obnoxious fan at a circuit party during a pandemic is systemic homophobia at work. the failure of our schools for not teaching you AIDS history. It's a confirmation that our worship of the sun-kissed Adonis, that flushed industrial complex of parties and porn, has always hidden a culture of nihilism and death. These are nervous giggles because you embody the most tedious, vapid, and scary parts of us, forcing us to use shame as a weapon and knowing we'll need to unpack yours for years. Thanks for giving us homework when we have so much else on our plate. Don't get me wrong, we also laugh at you because you look like fucking clowns. We are having a 9/11, that's the letter. And I just want to say we are having a 9/11 scale mass casualty event every single day in America. And that some privileged white gay men decided to strap on a Speedo and dance around like fucking morons while thousands of people die every single day. It's not just about the fact that they're potentially infecting others, that they're potentially at a super spreader event. It's the delusion. It's the narcissism of someone who would celebrate as thousands of people die a day. Imagine on 9/11, after the Twin Towers came down, if I had a goddamn pool party and took video of it. Are you fucking kidding me? I am so disgusted and ashamed. And by the way, of people I know who were at those Mexican pool parties at the part in the white part, the people I know. It's going to take a lot of time to unpack that from my mind of the vapid, how vapid you have to be, how senseless. I promised I wouldn't rage this week, but there it is. That's my read. Oh, I wanted to be a little more lighthearted at the end. Sorry, guys, but this has been the read down. Your weekly progressive political hot take by the Stonewall Democratic Club. We're keeping our eyes on the Georgia election results. Please, if you're interested in joining the Stonewall Democratic Club for only $25 a year, you too can join. Visit us at stonewalldems.org/join and join the fun. I'd like to thank my special guest this week, Luckie Alexander. Luckie, where can people find Invisible Men and you and support your work?
So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Invisible Men. It's at Invisible Men at both Instagram and Facebook. And then you can find me on both Instagram and Facebook. On Instagram, it's Luckie Alexander. And on Facebook, it's Luckie Fuller.
Very good. And Jonathan Welch, thank you so much, my co-host Jonathan Welch, for being here. Any final words?
Just keep your eyes on Georgia, y'all. This could be the night the lights go out, we hope. But be calm, take care of yourselves tonight. I know that it's really hard watching election results and hoping for everything to be crystal clear, and it takes a while. So be kind, be calm, and get some rest.
Thank you, Jonathan. And finally, last but not least, my co-host, Ebony Murphy-Root. Any final words, Ebony?
I'm just getting ready to go watch Rachel and, scroll Twitter. That's it. That's my big plan for Tuesday night. Everybody, we've done all the work we can do. We've donated, we've phone banked, we've bugged our friends in Georgia, and now we're going to see what happens for democracy.
Let's see what happens, and we'll be back next Tuesday to break down the results for you right here on the Read Down. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you, Luckie. We love you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luckie.